You're the first.
Looking back at how we were at the beginning of Evolutions, I have realized how much we have all grown as people. We are all now more curious, confident, and bigger risk takers.
We have also grown to be so close as the Gen 7 Evos community. We would like to thank everyone for coming tonight.
We are so grateful to have had this opportunity to publicly share our capstone project with you.
So for this project, we all chose our own topics and created a project that best reflected that topic. And this is a little bit more than our normal projects in Evolutions because it gives students a little bit more freedom over their project and what they want to do with it.
So given that this is our final project, we were given the freedom to be able to work with a partner if we wanted to. And so as you walk around, you may notice that some people are working in pairs instead of alone.
So like all of our other projects, in Evolutions, we followed the design process. Oh my god. This process was created to maximize our thinking and our learning and to produce a product that we can be confident with and be proud of. So this process is broken down into 5 milestones that are...
The first one is research and empathy. This is where we define our project and gain more knowledge on the topic. This is the phase where we normally cry the most at. I'm just kidding.
She's not kidding.
Define and ideate is our next stage where we define our purpose and what we want our product to be.
We then move into model and prototype, where we start to put together a prototype of our product, which we then receive feedback on to move into test and evaluate, where we refine our products before we move into produce and publish, which is where our product is public ready, which is this right now. Sorry. Now before we release you all, we have some really quick reminders.
On each project, there is a QR code which brings you to their Airtable. Airtable is a website that we use to have all our projects in one place to be able to look at all our peers' work.
So the Airtable has the person's product, their Bloom statement, which defines their focus, their reflections throughout the process, and their product type.
There are a few different types of projects here tonight, and one of those examples are create-its. The artistic creation, like my friend Gwendolyn here's project, is a create-it, and she made a room, so be sure to check that out.
Then there's publish-its, which is the written products like my awesome friend Vandana and her amazing partner Sam have made. And then there is the build-its, which is the physically built products like Will and Jimmy's go-kart, which is really cool. You should go check that out. And then there's video essays, which is a documentary style video to detail their learning.
And finally, there are TED Talks, which we have 3 of those, so be sure to check those out. And they're a more streamlined version of the TED Talks you see online. The first one starts at 6:15, and the other 2 will be followed by really quickly after, so be sure to pay attention for that.
So now you guys can all go see these amazing products and be sure to ask the hard questions because we are all ready for that. And that's all we have for you now. So be sure and enjoy Expo Night. Thank you.
And tell us your names first.
So I'm Charlotte Foreman,
I'm Brooke Rosedale.
and so we're juniors in high school. We're in the Evolutions program, and we took the junior seminar, guidance seminar, and we noticed that they gave us like more of a checklist of what to do to complete the college process, but they didn't actually talk about the mental health effects of it. So we decided to dive deeper and figure out what these are and how we can help one another beat this stress.
Cool. Well, how do you help one another go through the college process, applications?
So
Come on over here.
So especially with parents and peers helping students, what we found was really helpful is honestly just starting more conversations about this. We personally felt like this was not a very talked about subject, especially in school. Like when discussing the college process, they sort of just like throw everything at us, what we need to get done academically to successfully get into the colleges that we want to get into. So definitely just being there for your peers and for your parents being there for you as well, just talking about things and listening to what everyone has to say is definitely helpful, so then kids don't bottle up their emotions and feel even more stressed out than they already are.
So what's one thing that you learned that surprised you while doing this project?
I think honestly it didn't surprise me, but it's just not talked about enough, is to have a good mindset in this whole process, because the front is to be anxious about it, but I think like once you submit your applications, instead of anxious, be proud of yourself and be excited for what's coming, and just like kind of keeping like, if you decide to take tests and you don't get the score you want, that it's okay, you can try again, like there's always another option, and like everything will work out in the end if you just like positive, instead of taking it negatively, you turn it and spin it into a positive way.
Very cool. So how much research did you guys put into this?
We did research, general research on articles, and then we also did interviews. We interviewed 2 guidance counselors here at Wellesley High School, Ms. Sozio, Ms. Stone. Then we actually interviewed 2 seniors who have already gone through the process to hear it from a student perspective. And then we interviewed a college counselor that Brooke actually has for her, and to get an outside perspective.
Nice. Very cool. Well, thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sarah. My topic is on marine pollution. I decided to study this topic because of how much pollution I see in and outside the United States. When I go on vacations, and even in like Morse's Pond, the Charles River, there's so much plastic in and outside of Wellesley, and I just thought out of all the topics that I could have chosen, this is the most meaningful one that I want to bring attention to. So I actually interviewed 3 different professors. One is Professor Rand here from UMass. He's the head of the Department of Environmental Education. This is Professor Omand. She's a professor at the University of Rhode Island who studies oceanography. And this is Phyllis Thierman, who's the president of Sustainable Wellesley, which is kind of like my local professor that I worked with. They gave me a bunch of information kind of saying how every single piece of plastic that has been invented is still on our earth in some shape, like way, shape, or form. So I just kind of want, like I studied like when plastic was created, how everyone like thought it was such a technological advancement because it can be used in various medical products. It can be used in like as a lighter alternative to heavy metals. But the destruction that it's done to our earth, like for every square mile of our earth, there's over 45,000 individual pieces of plastic. So I'm obviously throwing out a bunch of information, but I just wanted people to walk away with the fact in mind that it's really easy to feel paralyzed because plastic pollution is such a huge issue. Like, what can I do about it? But it really is a stepping stone, whether that means kind of sacrificing that convenience of sipping out of a plastic straw, or just grabbing a plastic water bottle when you're leaving, and instead like taking that time to fill up a reusable one. It's really like, once I do something, how can I like continue to help, because I think it's all about future generations, and I think we really do have the power to make a difference. So that's kind of what I want people to walk away with in mind. So.
Do you think a lot of Wellesley High schoolers recycle?
I think so, but I think we also definitely have room for growth, for sure.
Yeah. So what are some of the things you're doing to help further this?
So I'm actually working with Sustainable Wellesley, like I said. If you go to their website, you can see the video, and I wrote a little, like my full video essay. I wrote a little paragraph about it, so hopefully I'm getting across to a bunch of Wellesley residents, not just only at Expo, but like people all across Wellesley. So hopefully I'm getting my message across to people from all over town, maybe even past Wellesley, so that's my goal.
Very cool. Well, thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you.
So I'm really passionate about all like things media. I love books, I love movies, I love TV shows. So what I wanted to do is what I made a game. It's kind of like a choose your own adventure book, like little books you do as a kid, where you would you go on an adventure. I give you different scenarios if you're a filmmaker trying to make a book to movie adaptation. So I made a game, and at the end you count all your points. And you see what ending or what end product you made, like what type of movie you made. So that's just a general synopsis of my project, and throughout they give examples of like movies that did similar choices and how that resulted in for them. Yeah.
And what's your name?
My name's Connor.
And how long did it take you to put this together?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of different elements I didn't originally thought would be incorporated. Originally, I did want to have it in a book format. So I'd say it took around like 6 weeks to like learn how to like code this website, work with the game. But it went by really fast, and I'm happy with the end product I made.
So what age group does this target?
I'd say people of like in their early to mid 20s, pretty much independent filmmakers who are interested in like maybe examples. I think anyone from any age could like read this. It's a pretty simple game. The more complexity is the examples I give. So I think, if you're interested in film and kind of like the steps that happen and like what realities you have to face, I think that's who it would apply to.
Very cool. Wow. So what's one thing that you learned that you didn't know before you started this project?
I think one thing I didn't know was about, originally I thought that a lot of times, why don't you just take everything from the book and bring it to the movie? But a good movie adaptation isn't always a good movie, and vice versa. I think a good example was I learned about like The Shining, and how The Shining, that's taught in film class. It's a very renowned movie, and well-known book as well. And Stephen King really doesn't like the Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. The reason why is because he didn't really feel like the main character was portrayed in the way he wanted to portray in the book. So then he made his own movie, but it was clearly that it was like someone who was only in the film of like in the making books. It was a lot of like talking, it wasn't a lot of like action, so it kind of bored audiences. So I think just learning about the artistic limitations that movies have and books had, and the reality of like cutting plot.
Well, that's exciting. You get a major in this field in college?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I think I'm just, I'm a very opinionated person. I love getting in debates over movies, If you told me that you didn't like my favorite movie, I might have to leave the interview, but it's all right.
We won't do that.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
So for my project, I created a cookbook on the colonization of Indian cuisine. And I made this book for the World History class at WHS. And it talks about how the British and Portuguese influenced the cuisine of India. It includes quite a lot of pages of writing, about 31. It includes...
That's cool. You made it look like the Indian flag.
Yeah, I did.
Nice. So what is this right here?
So this is peda, a traditional sweet from India. So I was going to add something like this in the end of my cookbook. But I didn't really have enough time to do it because I caught COVID right in the middle of my project.
So what are the different the cuisines that you researched, and where are they from?
So the cuisines I researched for my project were North Indian cuisine, which is from the north over here, and the Southern Indian cuisines. So the Southern Indian cuisines use a lot of rice and lentils, and while the north uses a lot more flatbread like naan, roti, chapati. And it also has a lot of influence from Islamic cuisine because they came and invaded the country.
So which dishes have European influence?
So one popular dish with European influence is the Vindaloo. It comes from the region of Goa, India, and it was actually a Portuguese dish called carne de Vindalos. It was brought in by Portuguese sailors, and it's like a meat dish marinated in wine. Instead of using meat, I use like a type of cheese from India called paneer because my family is vegetarian. I can't really use meat. Yeah.
Nice. Excellent. Do you enjoy cooking?
Yeah, I like cooking, but I like eating more. Yeah.
That figures because this is delicious.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Tell us what your project's about.
Okay, so I'm Katie.
And I'm Ellie.
And we chose to learn about forgiveness. So pretty much we realized that forgiveness is something that you're taught a lot about when you're younger through different things like TV, books, movies, your parents, and just different areas of life. But then as you get older, you're not really re-taught about the importance or different ways to forgive. And
so we decided to create a lesson plan for 8th grade girls that we got to go to the middle school and actually teach them. And on the first day, we asked them the question, why should people forgive? And on side one, we gave them like index cards. And on the first side, we had them write down their answer before we begin the lesson. And then on the second side over here, we had them write down when we were done with the lesson on day one. So these cards over here sort of show their growth after the lesson.
Yeah, and it was a 2-day lesson. So on the second day, these are 2 of the slides that were most important because we introduced a type of journaling called open letter writing, where you essentially write a letter to someone, you address it to them, but you don't actually send it to them. And so these are 3 examples of 3 of the girls' open letters that they got time to write.
Very cool. So what surprised you? What did you learn from this?
I think The title of our lesson is "It's not for you, it's for me." So in the beginning, we knew nothing about forgiveness, and so I think the biggest thing that surprised me was probably the first thing I learned is that forgiveness doesn't benefit the person who's being forgiven. It benefits you, whoever was wronged in the situation.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that forgiveness is such a nice thing to do for the other person, you're doing them a favor, but what we learned, I think, is that you're really doing yourself a favor. And then about the product, I definitely learned how much work goes into creating a lesson plan.
Yeah.
Did you have some students who just didn't want to do the exercise?
Not really. In the beginning, when we were doing the open letter writing, there were definitely a couple that were kind of a little bit confused and didn't know who they wanted to write to, which, we asked them to think about it the night before, but still they came in and were like, oh, I don't really know. But we just pushed them and asked them to think about either a situation that left them feeling not in the best mindset, or even something that had happened in the past. So some people even wrote to people that they had an issue with in I think 5th grade, and they're 8th graders now. So yeah, we worked around the big issues that came up.
Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you.